Racism. I think it's such an important topic to talk about
because it happens a lot, and a lot of times it's more subtle. It's not really our fault coming into a new place and feeling that way. It's also the persona that the place holds. You just need to Google Australian racism and you'll have like articles after articles after articles.
When an immigrant comes to Australia, they have the mindset that they will face racism.
Yeah. Also, I feel like a lot of people don't know about the history of Australia. I feel like if you know that and you come in, you'll be way more informed. You'll also be sensitive a lot to their issues. You cannot come into a space which originally did not belong to you.
Yeah.
Because racism is a kind of friction.
Yeah.
It's a friction to change.
Also, you need to, what I feel is, you need to voice yourself out so you are heard. Haters gonna hate, potatoes gonna potato.
Exactly.
Yeah. Welcome to Australia Unfiltered, where we share the highs, lows, and everything in between of living in Australia. Every episode is a candid conversation and insights from people living in Australia. This series is powered by Anka Cookie Co, and we'd like to give our special thanks to Aussies Group for this amazing podcast space. So stay tuned, stay informed, and get ready to experience another episode of Australia Unfiltered. Today, we are going to be talking about racism in Australia, and with us, we have Ayushi, who is also a doctor. Hi, and welcome, Ayushi, to Australia Unfiltered.
Hi, Sara. Thank you for having me. I'm a dentist. I'm not sure if that's considered as doctors to a lot of people. But yeah, I'm a dentist, and I've been in Australia for 1.5 years almost. Melbourne was my choice to live in, and I'm studying my master's in public health from Monash University. So that's been fun. Thank you for having me. Really looking forward to this conversation.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation too. Like, I remember when we spoke earlier and you reached out to me, and initially because you were a doctor, I thought we'll talk about
healthcare.
But then we clicked on racism, and I think it's such an important topic to talk about because it happens a lot.
It does. And recently, luckily, unluckily, I have had a lot of conversation revolving around racism. So for me, when we reached that point where we were like, oh, maybe we could talk about that, I was like, yeah, that's great, bingo. Because it happens a lot. And a lot of times it's more subtle than something too in your face. And I think these are conversations which are important that supposed to be happening, and thank you for having this initiative where people get to know about the perspective from here down under.
I think it's important to call it out in a way, like at least like call it out or talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, people won't know. And if people won't know, I'm not saying Australia is a beautiful country. I've experienced so much inclusion as well, but there is racism. And it's important to talk about it. And as you mentioned, like I've also recently, I don't know, maybe I've become more sensitive. I don't know. But I've also faced a lot more racism is what I am feeling. And I'm like, that's why I want to talk about it and put it out there.
Yeah.
What would your first encounter of like racism be? For me, I'll share mine first. For me, it was at uni when someone told me, oh, your English is really good.
Yeah, I think that's very common. I've heard so many people saying the same thing.
Yeah. The first few times when someone, and it's not the first time, like it was 3 times the third time when I was told it. The first time, I was like, yeah, I've always studied all my high school, all my life. It's a very big misconception that people in India don't speak English. A lot of people in India do speak English. So, and English has been kind of like my first language. So I was like, why is this a shock? I know English. Why are people asking me? But the third time, I just gave it back. And I think it's important to give it back, but also you need to keep in mind what the intentions of the other person are. Because recently I learned another perspective of this is that I met someone who was from Britain. We were like having really, they were nice British people. We were having a good time. And I don't know how this conversation started, but they also asked the same question, like, about English. So then I was like, why do you ask this? So they explained their perspective. Their perspective is that people from Spain speak Spanish, people from France speak French, people from Italy speak Italian, and yada yada. So they assume people from India will speak their language, like which is Hindi. So their intention is that, not their intention is not to be racist, but some people do it to be racist.
Put it like a remark. Yeah. It also depends on how they're approaching it. Some people would just ask you like, oh, you know English, and this looks very surprised, and that kind of puts you off. But there'll be some people who'll be like, oh my God, your dialect is so clear.
Yeah.
Which then feels like maybe a moment of appreciation, not too racist, because they do appreciate that even though that's might not be our first language, but we still have a good control on that language.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I think that difference does happen.
Yeah, true. What was your first encounter of racism in Australia?
Mine was on the extreme opposite side of yours. It wasn't subtle at all. I think it was more because it was also someone who was under the influence of alcohol, but then it took a racist route.
What was it? If you don't mind sharing.
No, I don't mind. I didn't do it. Why wouldn't I mind? So I was traveling in the train and having a very tough day, physically very tiring. So just sat in the train with like my head towards the window, and I had the seat there was another seat right behind me. And someone came and sat down, and I got a bang on my head. And I thought maybe, like they didn't notice. They were just sitting down. They might have had a bag or something. I didn't say anything, do anything. I was like, okay, fine. Anyways, I'm just a couple of stations away from city, so it doesn't matter. And then someone in front of me. So that's when I saw two spectrums of people. So there was someone in front of me who called out that person and said, "You hit her on purpose. We saw you."
Oh, that was on purpose?
Yes. Oh. And I was like, I was confused because I just never thought that would happen.
Yep.
And especially when I'm not provoking anyone, right? Like,
for sure.
As international students and even as migrant populations, we tend to just keep our head down and head on.
Yeah.
We try to not get into trouble, into things. So I saw both the sides of the story there, that someone who did that in spite, and someone who also stood up for me, and both of them were racially from the same background. So for me, that was my first encounter. I didn't know what to do. I probably just got off it was a while ago. It was during, I think, my first 6 months.
Yep.
I just got off the train station, started walking home, called my mom, and I was like, and then I spoke to my white friends. I'm not saying that the person who did that was specifically white, but I spoke to people who were Aussies. And they were like, you know what, people are bad. So they gave me a lot of support emotionally and mentally. For me, that was very important.
Yeah. It does help, like when people from the community, like depends whatever, like we're in Australia, so the Australian community, if they support and they give their feedback, it makes you feel like, okay, maybe there are always these people, even back home, wherever you're from, there are people who are racist. So they can be here as well, but you're alone here and you're so, you're vulnerable.
Yeah. And to me also the hurt came from a place that I do a lot of volunteer work for the Australian community. So I work with the Australian Red Cross and emergency services. I've been to the forest fires. I've been in the rescues for floods. I've worked with Australian Kookaburra Kids Foundation, which is with it's regarding mental health promotion amongst kids from armed forces backgrounds. So for me, it was also a place of hurt that I'm not taking away. I'm in fact contributing, even though I'm here as an international student, I have my bills to pay, but I'm still finding that time to volunteer for your community, trying to become a part of it. And that was the only major episode that happened with me. Other than that, not even subtle remark. Honestly, that took me by surprise because nothing else had happened.
Oh, okay.
Only that.
I remember sharing about this, and then you went to the cops, and then can you share about that experience as well? What happened?
Did we get in trouble?
No, we won't get in trouble. That's fine.
So you have the cops. I'm not sure if they're the cops or the security people who stand in the stations. I think they have limited authority, if I'm not wrong. So I went to him. And I was like, this is, and I didn't even go to him I did on the same day. I went to him and I was like, this happened. And then he's like, see, the train's gone. The man's gone. I'm sorry that happened to you, but this is about it. So when you hear that as a migrant, that this is about it, so you're just going to look down and move on from there, because you'd never report anything if it's like that. Because to my brain, logically thinking, he was still in that train. That train has a tracker. He can be gotten off on the next stop. Someone can do something about it. But maybe it was just too minor for them to focus
Oh,
on.
you know, that reminds me of an incident. Didn't happen with me, but one of my friends from back in India, they had come here to spend their honeymoon. Okay, they were just tourists, and this happened at Crown. Okay, Crown is such a big place. I'm gonna say like in authority, in reputation is what I mean to say. She and my friend were just laughing on the side, laughing loudly. Two girls laughing. So this one guy came and slapped her. He was maybe he was under the influence of something, but he came and slapped her real hard. Her first instinct was, she didn't know what to do, obviously. And her first instinct was to let it go. But my friend, because she's been in Australia for so long, she's like, no, I'm not going to let it go. We're going to go tell the security out here because that guy is out here. What if he does it to someone else? And that's not fine. And the guards came and they told, the guards told her that, oh, sorry, we can't do anything. He's left the premises or he's in another part and he won't do it anymore. And that's it. That's it. They're like, take an action, do something. They're like, no, we can't do anything.
I think that's something which I found lacking in a lot of ways because I work in the city. And when I'm going, so everyone when I moved here was like, Footscray, you're living in Footscray. It's not really one of the most reputed areas. And I was like, you know what? I felt safer in Footscray than city.
Is it?
Because in the evening when I come out, so I'm at the junction of Elizabeth with Flinders and sometimes you should like see the evening there looks crazy. People running around, shouting, screaming, throwing things. And although I know there's limitations with regulations, there's not much because there's autonomy involved in those cases, but it does make you feel very unsafe that nothing's going to be done. I know a lot of friends who've been hit by a junkie or hit by someone who was under the influence or even not under the influence, just passing by, did not like something and just hit them and nothing. And I think it's also that fear, like you said, right? That person was like, we can't do anything, they've left the premises.
Yeah, true.
So now, because I think somewhere down the line, we feel like nothing's going to happen even if we report it, we end up not reporting it. We end up just taking it in and just moving on to the next day.
100% that does happen. And so I've been in Australia for 6 years. I have not experienced, I didn't experience racism so blatantly, but off lately in the past 3 years is what I'd say. One of the nights I was going home, I'd gone out drinking with my friends, and then I was like, I'll take a tram back home because I live in the city. So one of my friends was like, I'll drop you home. I was like, no, I've been home so many times at night. It's safe. He insisted. So then I was like, fine. I'm so glad he insisted because in that tram, it was me, my friend, and 2 other people who were under the influence of something or they were junkie. I don't know. And they blatantly started calling me out, go back to your country, you brown skinned person. And I was like, oh my God, dude, this is too much. And they were coming closer to where I was. I was so scared. I was so scared.
Has this ever happened to you that you were walking down the street and there were like a bunch of people from a particular race in the car and they just like opened the window and just shouted out to you?
So this has not happened to me, but to my partner, Kush. What happened to him is at Docklands, he was sitting there with his friend and they probably had like a takeout. And these kids, like 16 or 18-year-old kids, they come and they drop their food and they start abusing them. And they just walk away and they start laughing and drop all of their food. And this happened to him. And this was the first time, I have lived in Docklands. I felt so safe. I love that area. But in open...
It is supposed to be one of the safest areas. It's CBD technically.
It is technically CBD.
It's an extension of CBD. And if you can't keep your public safe in CBD, then it's just... And that fear, because I feel like living in India, I have lived in enough fears being a woman, being educated, being out and working. So moving here primary goal was to move out of the fear as well. Right? And even being here, if I'm in that same constant fear, it just takes away from the experience a little bit.
See, I think there are two ways to it. I love my life here, and it is amazing, and it is a great life. But these few experiences, it does get to you, 100%. Like I feel a little taken aback. Like recently, the other day, I usually don't do it on my social media, but there was this one day I was going back from coffee right next to my house, and this old man, um, white old man, I just want to say it. He was not walking on my pathway. Like I'm walking from here, he's walking on the opposite side. And he looks at me. Sometimes, looks people give you. And you can sense, okay, this is not fine.
Yeah.
This is like subtle racism. He's walking towards me and he just bangs into me in a very weird way. Doesn't push me or anything, but purposely bangs into me, comes in my way and then bangs into me and then walks away. And he gives me a look, and there was another girl out there. She saw it and I saw it, and we both matched eyes, and even she was like, shit, what happened? And I was also like, shit, what happened? But I just didn't react. I don't know why, but I froze and I couldn't react. And it was so weird. And usually these things don't affect me, but that day felt so bad and I felt so shit. Like I don't cry and put things on my social media, but that day I was like, I need to put it out so people know this happens and it is not fine. I'm a person who feels things need to be called out.
Yeah. And I think things are important to be called out, but it's also important for us to recognize that it's one of those 300 days.
100%. It's one of those 300 days.
Yeah. I know a lot of students who face something and then they go into this complete shell, which is not a good thing for themselves either.
Yeah, true.
It is that, okay, let me give it like 30 days in a year. So that's also too much. Honestly, I don't think there's more than like 5 or 6 days in a year that this happens.
Yeah.
About subtle racism, it's the funny things to me, honestly. It's like, if I'm on a tram, right? I've had a lot of people who wouldn't move, even if I want to get out of the tram. And they'd move for people of other color. They just wouldn't move for me. and like, if I'm moving to the side, I've been pushed out so that I wait till the time they get out and like come back in. And I'm usually someone, I hate giving anyone any kind of inconvenience. So if I know that like there are people coming in or out, I'd myself step off of the tram or the train and like, wait on the side. But people don't even move. Like you keep asking them, and I, as we said, like as we saw in the initial part of the recording, that I'm not really loud, especially when I'm around people who I don't know. So I'd be like, excuse me, please. And like, they don't care. And like, sometimes they push you off, sometimes they strut you and things like that. But I feel like that's like traveling in like Mumbai local, Delhi metro, you get too used to that.
I get it. No. So when you said that, it reminded me of ignorant racism. So it also happened with me at one of my workplaces where I was the only brown person in that office, is what I'd say. And it was in one of the regional areas. I don't want to name where, but so people were from regional areas. They probably didn't travel a lot, or they didn't meet people from different cultures. So I was traveling back home to India, like on a break, and they were like, oh, how are you going to go back home from the airport? And I live in Mumbai, which is a very metropolitan city. Like, how are you going to go back to Mumbai? I was like, Uber. They're like, oh, India has Uber? I was like, damn, yes.
Should have told them a cart.
No, I believe to educate them and make them learn that what India actually is. So people's misconceptions are changed. I showed them pictures of my building where I stay. I showed them we have Uber. We probably had Uber way before even Australia had Uber. So I gave them that knowledge so that next time, because these guys were ignorant racists, they weren't racist like blatantly. They just didn't know that they're being racist. They just didn't have the knowledge, is what I'd say.
Yeah, I think if they don't know, and you get to know, you get to know when someone's belittling you or someone's like not knowing and just joking about it. And
yes, 100%. Yeah. I'll share another incident. I don't know why there's so many incidents that are popping out in my head.
Yeah, the same is happening with me. Like now, since you're talking, the more and more things are coming out. So yeah.
Yeah. So this happened at one of my workplaces again. So I am obviously Indian. So I have my accent is a little Indianized, which I would say. So my name is Sara. It is S-A-R-A. It's Sara. It's not Sarah. And this one person, one of my managers, he called me Sarah. So I corrected him. I'm like, it is not Sarah, it's Sarah. And then I corrected him because it's been 8 months since I'm working with him. It's not like the first few times. So he should probably know my name. And I don't like my name being mispronounced. For some reason, at that time, I didn't realize that he's being racist. My friend who's an Australian, he's like, Sara, that wasn't fine. That is racist.
Yeah.
He did it purposely in an Indian accent. And I was like, damn, yeah, you're right. That wasn't okay. That's not okay to make fun of my accent. That is how I speak. I'm from another country. But that you cannot make fun of my accent in that way, and especially when we're talking about a name. He felt guilty because he knew he did something wrong. And he called me the next day and he's like, oh, I'm sorry about it. I didn't mean to. It was just in the moment, blah, blah, blah. I was like, forget it. It's workplace, let's move on. But that wasn't okay. And he also knew it wasn't okay. That's why he called me personally just to say sorry. He didn't say sorry once, a few times.
Again, that is something which I wouldn't be okay with. If you insult me in front of people, don't come and apologize to me in person. Right?
I did. That's what now I'm getting.
Own up to it. If you realize that you made a racist comment, own up to it in the next meeting. Be like, also what happened in the last meeting, that wasn't really cool on my part. I'm sorry. So do that. I don't like when people, insult you in front of other people and they're like, come in person. And like, I'm sorry if I was being racist. You were being racist in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And especially if you are someone with a bit of authority, you kind of make it okay for other people to do it as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
You let others know that, oh, I did it, so can you.
It's casual.
Yeah, this person's a subordinate. But it is not fine. And with time, I'm learning that. I'm not glad these experiences happened, but I feel they're a catalyst for me.
They're part of you.
Catalyst for me to become more stronger, more resilient, and understand what is wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't know that is the way he said it. That is wrong.
One more question I have to ask you, although you are taking the podcast. But so racism by definition is making any kind of conception against someone because of their race, which is their color of the skin, or maybe their ethnicity. Have you ever faced that? To me personally, I feel like I have had more hate coming in from people of my own color than white people. Yeah, obviously they haven't hit me on the street or anything like that because they are also scared, they're also immigrants. But I've personally faced, even at workplace or uni or like any other professional commitment, I've always felt like I receive more sidelining from their end as compared to Aussies.
I feel some places, yes, I've not always felt it, just maybe once or twice, but I get your point. I have not faced it, but I have seen it where people in Australia, people who are from a similar race to you, they are racist or mean or they're rude to you because you belong to the same race as them.
I remember initially when I came, so I have ADHD, so I do dive in research into everything that I do. So before I came here, I knew the Google Maps, I knew the ways, I'd memorized the ways, I knew which tram number, which train time, everything. Somehow in the city, because everything's so confusing, I got lost at one place and I went up to, and when you're in a foreign land, you see someone with your color and it's not like I don't know. So I knew they were brown. I didn't know whether they were Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, whatever.
Mexicans, anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah. No, I could make out that they were Southeast Asian. It was evident by the ethnic wear that they were wearing. So I knew that much. And I have my grandfather's side of the family living in Bangladesh as well. So I understand Bangla. And I have a part of my family living in Nepal. So I understand Nepali. So I'm very multilingual. So it wasn't, I went to them and I asked them very nicely, hi, can you please help me in this? And the immediate change in personality that happened. So like, that's like sudden, that hair flip had happened. And I was like, never asking a brown person again. Oh, hell.
I've not faced that yet. I've not faced that yet, as I would say in Australia. But I have heard of instances, 100%, where that does happen, where people of your own ethnicity or own race do not support you. But at the same time, I've also seen people supporting you.
Yeah, and helping us out.
Going out of their way.
I live with my friends and all of them are Indians. I have a lot of friends outside of study and work who are Indians and they're really helpful. But I feel like sometimes on the street, also you don't know, maybe they are having a bad day. I always end up giving an excuse for other person.
Yes.
So like maybe they were just having the worst day of their life and I just happened to be in front of them asking the stupid questions. So
No, I feel there is racism in Australia. There 100% is. But at the same time, there is also a lot of support. So if someone is coming to Australia, there would be, you might, I'm not saying there will 100% be, but you might face racism at some point, or you never also. But there might be chances. Like, I wouldn't say like 100% you would never, but there might be chances also of those things.
Also, I feel like a lot of people don't know about the history of Australia, whatever it is with the Aboriginal communities and everything. I feel like if you know that and you come in, you'll be way more informed. You'll know a lot, and you'll also be sensitive a lot to their issues, which, you know, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure.
It's never that you cannot come into a space which originally did not belong to you.
Yeah.
And expect everything to fall according to your convenience.
100%.
So I feel like, because racism is a kind of, in my words, it's a kind of friction.
Yeah.
It's a friction to change.
Yeah.
It's nothing else. It's just a friction to change.
Yes.
They are doing what they have been doing for ages, and they're just not liking that someone else is coming in and changing things for them.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like more informed you are, you come here, more understanding you are, and racism is everywhere in the world, and that's something that my global health comes out to, because I feel like gone are the days where we had boundaries of colors and races, ethnicities,
everything, gender, anything.
Now everyone's migrating everywhere. We have white people living in India.
Yeah.
We have all sorts of people living in all parts of the world. So I feel like that's why we're moving towards a more vibrant community everywhere around the world. So I hope in next few years it becomes a talk of the past that, oh, there was racism.
I also remember, you're right, just to add on to that, but I also remember when I had a chat with you earlier, you had mentioned this and it got stuck with me, is that when an immigrant comes to Australia, they have the mindset that they will face racism.
Yeah.
So when that happens to them, they're like, okay, it's fine. I knew it.
It's part and parcel.
It's part and parcel, but it's so sad that that is a mindset that people come with, because I know Australia is a beautiful, supportive country, but even I had that mindset, and I'm very sorry to say that I had that mindset, but I did face it.
It's also it's not really our fault coming into a new place and feeling that way. It's also the persona that the place holds.
Yeah, true.
You just need to Google Australian racism and you'll have like articles after articles after articles. So it's the conditioning is obviously happened so that, you know, when you go to uni, I don't know about like when you came here, but when I was going to uni back in India for my bachelor's and I was moving out of my state, even that was a big thing. And my parents were like, you know, happen what may, just keep your head down, move on. You're there for a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens to people when they think about racism. They're like, you know what? It's a bit of salt in your
journey.
Yeah, exactly. True. You just take it and move on because you're here for better things. You're here for bigger things.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
At the same time, I also do want to call out people who are like, oh my God, Australia is so racist. No, it is racist, 100%. But at the same time, it is also very supportive. I'll give an example.
Yeah.
My first workplace that I got hired in, they were the most welcoming people. They didn't care what your background was, what culture you came from, what color you were. They just hired people for what the person is or what their skills are. And they were so tolerant towards other people's culture as well. Like Diwali is a very big festival for Indians. And they were Australians.
Even Nepalis.
Yeah, even Nepalis. Yeah. But I mean, I'm speaking from my perspective. So these guys, they're Australian. The owners of the company, they're Australians. And I had actually gone to buy sweets because I had a celebration at my house. I got late and it was like my lunchtime. And I couldn't come back because I was stuck. And I was like, hey guys, I am running very late and I won't be able, like, it'll take me another hour or two. They're like, oh, Sara, don't worry. Take the day off. It's on us. they don't even know what Diwali is. They've never celebrated Diwali. But they just respected my culture and they knew I had a celebration. So they were like, we know you'll work it out, but just celebrate yourself. And they said it's on us. So it was a paid leave for my festival, which they don't have an idea about.
Yeah.
So Australia can be very supportive.
And that's what we were discussing earlier. So it's maybe just 6 days out of 365 days, right?
Yes.
Other days, I've done more than what I expected coming into my master's. I was like, degree, study, do that.
Yeah.
But I've been involved with multiple organizations. As I've told you, I'm with Study Melbourne, I'm with Monash as an ambassador, I'm an ambassador for the Migrant Justice Institute. I've done my internship with DHSV. I'm doing another practice, and I'm working, and everything other than my workplace where I work part-time, I don't know a single brown person in any of those environments. So it's been the Australian people who have, with no hesitation, let me be, appreciated my work, let me move on to bigger and better things. And I'll always owe it to them. And as you said, racism is a very tiny, obviously not so nice part of it, but like the journey in Australia is just something entirely different.
Also, what I feel is, you need to voice yourself out so you are heard. A friend of mine had told me this, that where he works, the management, so he works like in retail, but all the management, and it's a global company, but the management in Australia does not have people of any culture, ethnicities. So either people need to stand up and voice against it, or that's how we are here for doing it. Like you said, you're the only brown person. So you did stand up and you did stand. They do see value in people. If you show your value, they will appreciate it. Obviously, it might take a bit of an extra effort. You might face obstacles. You might face racism. But at the end, it will be worth it. And when you face racism, I do recommend to call it out. I call it out all the time.
You should. Everyone should. And I think I was lucky enough, a couple of months back, I had an opportunity to have a conversation with the Victorian Equal Opportunities Commission, who works against racism. They are developing a guide for anti-racism campaigns and everything. And one key takeaway from that event for me was that you gotta tell people your story. You, even if nothing happens, even if no one's going to do anything, catch anyone, punish anyone, doesn't matter. You gotta tell people that that's happening. You need to report things.
Yeah.
You need to voice it out, because change happens when you see something's wrong.
Yes.
If you don't talk about it, no one will know that that's happening. And if no one knows, no one's going to do anything about it. So bingo, bang on that.
Yeah.
You need to voice it out.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a way of going about it. We can't be like,
yeah, true. No, there's a way to call it out. Either you say, I do not appreciate it, or you just call it out. This has been happening on my social media recently. I don't know why. There's this one fake, everyone says it's a fake account, and I believe she's like 30 followers. Like she follows 30 things, and it's a picture of a white female. Don't know where she's from, but it's a fake account. I commented on another person's post. She responded to my comment saying that, oh, you should leave the country. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? Then I created content on my profile on Instagram. She commented on that as well. I'm like, what is wrong?
She's just sad and lonely.
Why is a fake account doing this? You make better use of your fake account.
I think that it's a guy. If you look at the following, the person is following just like girl gym accounts.
Yes, I did see that. But that person, whoever that is, has used a picture of a white woman. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. Agreed. That's a good catch.
See, and I feel like hate, racism, it's a human thing. It doesn't have to do with gender. It is a human thing. So it's just a bad person.
Yep.
And
sure.
Sara, I'll personally tell this to you, but you're a woman of color. You're educated. You're a woman to begin with. Then you're a woman of color. You're educated. You're doing good for yourself. And you are just going to go above and beyond. And trust me, you'll be heckled every step of your way, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why when someone asks me, like, how does racism affect you? it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm an educated woman and I'm brown. So trust me, the amount of heckling I've already faced, and racism is just one part. I've been fat shamed. I've been bullied for like being good at things. So people will hate you for anything. They'll find a reason.
Yeah, true.
And I'm also sometimes I'm that villain energy. I'm like, you hate me for no reason. Let me give you one.
You should. Why not?
Just,
But if you have haters, that means you're doing well in life.
Exactly. That's what I told you. You're a woman. You are progressive. You are going ahead in your life. People will heckle you, and doesn't matter. Someone hiding behind 30 followers of gym girls doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying that it's I called that account out once before, and I again called out that account. So I feel it's important to call out. It's important to stand up for yourself and not take shit. When they realize that you can give it back as in you don't need to be the same level as them, but they know that you won't stand for it, then they will not do it, and they will respect you. They have no other choice because they know you're not going to stand for it. So anyone facing it, it's important to know that. Yep.
That's true.
Any advice for anyone dealing with racism? Anything else that you'd like to add?
Find support. Number one is I remember that walk crying back home from train station to my unit lodge, which is a student accommodation, was damn lonely and bad. So find support. There is enough support available online. Try to find better coppers who would listen to you and maybe do something about it. But even if they can't, there are online platforms where you can report it. And it's very important that you do, because that adds to the number of crimes happening. So that's important. See, it's very easy for me to sit here and be like, don't take it too hard. But everyone does take it too hard. But I recently was listening to another podcast, and the person said a very nice thing. If someone's commenting on something that you can't change within the next 5 minutes, don't take it to your heart.
True.
So if they're talking about your weight, your race, your hair color maybe you can change in 5 minutes, but anything that you cannot change in next 5 minutes, do not take it to your heart.
True.
Because that's not in your hand.
100%. Haters gonna hate, potatoes gonna potato.
Exactly.
Priyanka Chopra said
energy, yes. That's what I was gonna say. That's PC energy here.
Oh, I love her.
Same.
Yeah. Anyway, do you want to add anything else to this?
Yeah, I mean, I can go on, and I feel also there's very less education about it.
Yes, true.
A lot of people don't know what all resources are available. So I myself was introduced those resources just couple of months back, and I've made it a point that I bring it to Monash. I've made it a point that we spread the word through Study Melbourne. So go out, read about things, know about things, and to me personally, if it's happening on the road, I just ignore it. But if it's happening on an institutional level with you, that's where you step your foot down. You're like, no, this is not okay. This is not acceptable.
Yeah.
But if something's happening on the road, I'll probably just like move on, dude. I'm better than that. I'm very busy.
Yeah.
To
True. It depends on how one would take it. But after that incident happened to me, I've learned I need to call it out. Call it out doesn't just say, I do not appreciate it. Please do not do it with me. As simple. You're not rude. You're not anything. You just be like, you set your boundaries is what I say. You set your boundaries and you leave it at them. Anyway, Ayushi, thank you so much for your insights. Now it's time for a little rapid fire round.
Sure. I'm scared.
No, it is something very easy. Quick, okay? We're going to do it really quick. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What's your favorite city?
Delhi.
In Australia.
Oh, Melbourne.
Yeah.
I've only been to Melbourne, guys. It's an unfair question. It's unfair to the rest of Australia. Let me say Gold Coast, because growing up, I always wanted to go to Gold Coast. I'm sorry, I'm making this longer than a rapid fire.
That's fine.
I ended up coming to Melbourne, but growing up, I've always wanted to go see the Great Ocean Barrier Reef. So,
yep. What's your coffee order?
It's mocha.
What's your favorite cafe?
I'm gonna say 7-Eleven. I'm a student and
Get
I'm
out.
broke.
Get out.
I'm broke and I don't even like coffee. I make chai at home, guys.
You can get out. I'm just kidding. What's your pet peeve?
People who put their feet up on the public transport. A, it's illegal, and B, it's you.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not nice. Who do you consider an overrated celebrity?
Ooh. Ben Affleck? I don't like him. I don't know why people ship him with J-Lo.
He's bad. Okay, find your choice. What is an overrated thing about Australia?
What's an overrated thing about that? It's a very touristy destination. Don't kill me, guys. So to me personally, I am an adrenaline junkie. So if I'm in the water, I want to be on a speedboat, doing surfboarding or something like that, something crazy all the time. Or I want to be skydiving. I know all of that is available in Australia, but I feel like, so my parents are coming here for my convocation, and I decided to make a trip, and I was like, what do I do? Like, I just take them to...
I agree.
Yeah, I just take them to Great Ocean Road and be like, there you go. This is what you get. So, like, I can't think of anything as such with not many
Shrine of
parks.
Remembrance.
Exactly.
Royal Botanical Garden.
Yeah, and my parents honestly are not big on like museums and scenes. They want to do... They're as adrenaline rushed as me. So that's why Gold Coast would be amazing, because you can go to Universal Studios and all of that. But other than that, I can't think of a single destination in Australia where, other than admiring the beauty that there is, obviously is, can't do much. And also they're vegetarian, so food becomes a limitation everywhere. So yeah.
No, I agree with your last point. It is so difficult to plan something in Melbourne. When my parents came, I was like, shit, where do I take them?
What do I do with you?
Yeah. Let's go to a cafe. Yeah. Let's go eat food outside. They're like,
all the time?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
No, agreed. Thank you so much, Ayushi. That's it from our end. It was lovely meeting you. It was truly candid, truly unfiltered. And thank you so much for sharing your insights on racism, a topic that needed to be spoken about.
Thank you for having me. It was amazing, and I hope the word gets out and people are less scared and more potent to fight with it when it happens, and if not, then just enjoy Australia as it is. I love Australia as it is.
Yes,